On Azarel, night knows no dawn, only the cold winds moving through dense canopies like the weary sighs of an ancient planet. Here, the deep forest waits for no one to awaken and offers no mercy to the lost. A streak of fire ripped the night apart, slashing across the sky in a burning arc. The rescue craft, more accurately, a battered escape pod, tumbled and spun, plunging through clouds of volcanic dust and ash like a wounded beast. The crash thundered, echoing for miles, trees shuddered and bent aside, the ground itself shaking beneath the sudden, violent impact. Inside the burning wreck, Velira Shin, a warrior of the Illyrian race, gritted her teeth and endured, her piercing violet eyes darting across cracked control panels. The biosuit clung tightly to her body, each silvery vein faintly glowing beneath torn skin. A deep gash ran down her left thigh, blood thick and heavy dripping from the wound. The suit's thermal regulator screamed warnings, but Velira bore it in silence, gripping the controls until inertia flung her against the steel wall. The forest stirred. Native creatures were gathering, drawn by the scent of blood and burning metal. Velira forced herself up, slashed her seat restraints with a knife, and squeezed through the emergency hatch just as it finally slid open. She limped through the high grass, pausing now and then to catch her breath as blood leaked steadily from her leg. Her eyes never left the small helmet display, the only thing guiding her through the frigid darkness. It registered a single heat signature not far away, a survival bunker, the only one within 5 kilometers. Every step tested her will. Predators hissed and scratched from the undergrowth, yellow eyes glittered between tangled branches, ready to tear apart any creature too weak to defend itself. Velira grabbed a steel rod for a staff and trudged toward the signal. There was only one chance. If she didn't reach that bunker, she would die in the cold night or become someone's easy prey. With her last ounce of strength, Velira reached the battered iron door. Without hesitation, she slammed her fist into it, leaving a dent and a fresh smear of blood. The door slid open with a metallic groan, and a dim, golden light spilled from within, an old lantern casting warmth in the gloom. Standing in the entryway was Jace Miles, a Terran man with tousled brown hair and storm-gray eyes, his coveralls frayed and worn, a wrench still gripped in his hand as if prepared for any surprise. 2 pairs of eyes met, one stranger, one survivor. Velira looked at him, her voice hoarse with pain and blood loss. "Move aside." Jace arched an eyebrow, immediately noting that the figure before him, though humanoid, was clearly alien. A warrior encased in armor like a second skin, silver blood running down her leg, sparkling on the concrete. "You look like hell," he remarked. Velira curled her lip, blood still dripping into her boot. "And you look weak." Jace gave a dry, almost bitter laugh, then locked the door behind her. Without another word, he backed up to the medical cabinet, pulled out a battered trauma kit, and set it on the table. "You about to pass out, or just want to redecorate my floor with blood?" Velira narrowed her eyes, struggling to steady herself. "Depends on whether your trauma kit is worth a damn." Jace approached without further comment, kneeling beside her. The scent of blood, dust, and hot metal hung thick in the air. "Your armor's locked tight. Bioskin autolocks after high impact. It won't release until it thinks I'm safe. You don't make me feel safe." Jace didn't respond, simply reaching for the seam at her waist. "If you want me to patch you up, you'll have to take this off." Velira's voice dropped, guarded. "I'm not stripping in front of a Terran. You're bleeding in front of one." In that tense moment, their eyes locked and held. Velira hesitated, then pressed her finger to the latch beneath her collarbone. A soft hiss escaped as the chest plate released, exposing her violet silver skin, streaked with blood and sweat. Jace's gaze remained steady and unblinking. "You're staring. You're glowing like a neon sign. Hard not to." Velira turned away, a flush rising in her cheeks, part fatigue, part annoyance. "Don't think this means anything." Jace carefully pressed a med patch to her hip, his touch both firm and gentle. "Your hands are cold. And you're burning up." Velira jerked away, nearly collapsing. Jace caught her elbow with care. Sit. Name. Velira. Jace. No more words, only the sounds of ragged breathing and the med scanner's insistent beeping. Jace moved the scanner over Velira's thigh, his eyes never leaving the small screen. No fractures. Muscles torn, though, still bleeding. I can't cut through this layer. If you want to survive, more armor has to come off. Velira bit her lip, arms crossed tightly. Turn around. You break into my bunker, bleed on my floor, insult my genetics. But fine, you get privacy. Jace turned, almost. His eyes flicked back over his shoulder, unable to help himself. Velira released the secondary clasp at her sternum. Her armor fell away, the biosuit beneath clinging to every curve, sweat glistening down her neck and chest. Her breathing grew heavier, body temperature climbing out of control. Don't look. Just checking the wound. Just checking. Velira relented. She no longer had the strength to argue. Jace sliced open the suit at her thigh, cleaned away blood, and quickly closed the wound. You used to pain like this. Pain isn't worth fearing. Is there anything you do fear? Velira said nothing. When he finished, Jace wiped his hands and stepped back, his expression both cautious and searching. You're burning up by the minute. My suit's cooling system is shot. Usually the armor regulates heat for me. Not anymore. Need me to do anything? Just don't touch me. Jace set a bottle of water on the table, sitting across from her. Always this hot. Only when I'm in danger or hurt. Your landing looked dangerous enough. Velira narrowed her eyes. Your face when I called you weak was pretty dangerous too. Jace laughed, the tension breaking for the first time. Got any spare beds? There's only a single cot and an old blanket. No climate control, just body heat. I don't share beds. I don't snore. I'm not afraid to sleep together. Jace spread the blanket. Velira hesitated for a moment, then perched at the edge of the cot, still wary. If you touch me in your sleep. I won't unless you touch me first. If I do, what will you do? Take it like a man. Velira almost laughed, a genuine, unforced curve of her silver lips. She peeled off the last of her armor, leaving only the bodysuit that hugged her strong, almost androgynous form, every muscle defined beneath shimmering violet skin in the low light. Jace stared, half in awe, half feeling challenged. Velira lay down, head on the pillow, eyes wide and alert. Jace shed his jacket, stripped to his undershirt and work trousers, and climbed into the cot's far side. A strange silence filled the bunker, two unfamiliar bodies, two restless minds, both ready to collide like fire meeting fuel, yet both holding back for now. Then Velira shivered, body trembling in waves, breath quickening, eyes squeezed shut. You're not okay. Don't say it. Jace reached out, not quite touching her but hovering close by her waist, feeling the heat radiate off her. You need to cool down or you'll go into shock. Don't touch me. But the truth was, Velira's body was only getting hotter, flushed red all over, the tight suit soaked through with sweat. Her mind blurred, consciousness floating somewhere between instinct and reason. Jace hesitated, then made his choice. He gently touched her neck, his cool skin against the burning furnace of hers. She shuddered, gasping, eyes flying open to his. What are you doing? Cooling you down. Skin to skin is fastest. Just skin to skin. If you want more, that's up to you. Neither of them laughed, neither said more. Survival instinct won. Velira scooted closer, placing a hand flat on Jace's bare chest, letting the chill seep into her overheated skin. They were silent, the only sounds their rough breaths and heartbeats, not simple sexual attraction but the ancient, primal bond of two species fighting to live. Velira pressed into Jace, her burning body sliding against his solid frame, violet eyes gleaming in the dark. What if I lose control? I'll take responsibility. She laughed, a softness breaking through for the first time. You Terrans are always so confident. Only when I have a reason. Velira clenched her teeth but finally surrendered to the raw comfort of safety, just this once, in the presence of someone colder than herself. She buried her face in Jace's neck, sweat and tears mingling. Jace wrapped his arm around her waist, gently drawing her closer, his own body slowly pulling the excess heat from hers. For a while, the line between their bodies vanished. Warrior's pride, alien dignity, all dissolved as survival became nothing more than lying together, skin to skin, breaths mingling in the dark. But even in that brief peace, a shrill sound echoed outside the bunker, a warning that danger was still lurking close. The cold wind outside the bunker howled like a death omen. Inside, the air thickened with tense silence, pierced only by the heartbeats and mingled breaths of two survivors pressing together in the darkness. Velira lay still, her eyes wide open, fixed on the low ceiling, every sense strung taut as a bowstring. Beside her, Jace felt the tension emanating from her body, but instead of pulling away, he remained steady, calmly holding her blazing hot form, his hand resting gently at her waist, never invasive, only comforting. This reluctant intimacy made the air between them heavier, as if the slightest movement would ignite everything. Velira turned, her back pressed against Jace's chest. How can you trust an alien who just crashed onto this planet? Jace replied quietly, his lips near her neck. I don't trust you, but I know if I don't help, you'll die. On Azarel, we only have each other now. She laughed, the sound emerging from a parched throat, tinged with a loneliness she rarely revealed. That's your only reason. Jace didn't answer right away. He gazed at the streaks of blood on her neck and shoulder, the silver gleam of alien blood under her bodysuit, soaked with sweat. There's another reason, he murmured. I've never seen anyone look as beautiful as you do on the verge of death. Velira laughed again, for the first time truly letting go. The sound was rough, tired, yet proud, like embers glowing beneath cold ash. The space between them vanished. There was only skin against skin, breath swirling at her neck and nape. Velira could feel every heartbeat of Jace, strong, steady, like the only anchor left in a world of chaos. But then the noises outside the bunker returned, this time the low growl of a large creature, probably a Rakesh, the apex predator of this world. Velira shot up, moving with feral instinct, her eyes glowing purple. They're scenting my blood. Jace didn't hesitate, rushing to the battered weapon rack and pulling out the last plasma rifle. He checked the magazine, eyes never leaving the door. This door can hold for maybe an hour if Rakesh attacks head-on. But they can dig or find another way in. Velira stood beside him, her tall body radiating heat, her gaze steely. They only fear fire and loud noises. Jace nodded. We'll have to hold out till dawn. If we want to live, we have to cooperate. Velira shot him a sharp look, a flash of respect in her eyes despite the mocking curve of her lips. You think I'd take orders from a Terran? Jace didn't answer, just handed her a sonic grenade, his hand brushing hers gently. No one gives orders. Here, we either work together or die. Feeling Jace's resolve, Velira stopped mocking. She checked her weapon, activated combat mode on her wrist, the suit instantly shifting to battle mode. At that moment, a violent noise shook the ground. Rakesh had found the scent of alien blood. Outside, a beast like a cross between a rhino and a jungle tiger, with black silver-scaled armor and a horn embedded in the ground, was frantically clawing around the steel bunker. Its roars vibrated through the walls, sending tremors through every bone in their bodies. Velira pressed up to the door, gripping a plasma blade hidden in her armor. Jace stood beside her, back to the wall, rifle raised. Their eyes met in the dark, a current of survival instinct and silent desire running between them. The space between them was no more than a hand's width, their breaths mingling and fogging up their visors. Get back. What are you going to do? Lure it away from the main entrance. When I fire, you strike at its hind legs, force it to turn. Watch out for its tail. Velira narrowed her eyes, recognizing this was Jace's first time facing danger. Where have you fought before? Jace answered tersely, not the time for stories, ready. She nodded. Jace activated the half-door mechanism, thrust the rifle out, and fired a volley of plasma shots at the Rakesh. The explosions lit up the night, sending the beast into a frenzy as it charged the bunker. At that instant, Velira launched herself like an arrow through the gap, slicing at the beast's hind leg with her plasma blade, a spray of blue sparks. The Rakesh howled, its tail whipping at her. She tumbled away, but the tail slashed across her back, tearing her suit and exposing silver, bleeding skin. Jace shouted, "Move left." He jumped out, firing another burst into the beast's side, drawing its attention. Velira seized the chance, leaped onto its back and drove her blade into its neck. The beast thrashed, black blood spurting, its roars shaking the forest. Within seconds they fought together as if born to it. The Rakesh finally collapsed, its huge body shuddering on the damp earth. Jace rushed over, helping Velira up, eyes fixed on her wounded back. "You all right?" Velira nodded, panting, silver blood trickling down her side, the scent of iron mingling with sweat and mud. Just a scratch. But Jace knew she was losing blood fast. The mood shifted as they returned to the bunker. Jace slammed the door, his gaze sharp. "Take off the suit so I can treat you. If not, you'll get infected or worse." Velira hesitated, then decided to trust him. She slowly peeled off the torn suit, revealing violet silver skin and taut muscle, her body strong and alive, yet bruised by battle. Jace carefully cleaned the blood, disinfected the wound, and placed a biopatch on her back. The cold from his hands sent a shiver through Velira, not from pain, but a jolt of electricity down her spine. She exhaled, unconsciously leaning into his chest. Jace noticed her breath growing quicker, his hand lingering at her waist longer than necessary. He murmured, "You have to stabilize your temperature or else." Velira interrupted, voice rough and low, "How do you plan to help?" Jace didn't answer with words. He gently pulled her close, his cool skin against her burning body. In that moment, the line between reason and instinct disappeared. Jace's lips brushed Velira's neck, the scent of skin and sweat swirling, dormant desire suddenly roaring to life. Velira closed her eyes, arms winding around Jace's neck, panting in his ear. "What if I lose control? Will you be afraid?" Jace answered, his voice deep and steady. "I want to know what that feels like." They crashed into each other like two storms, bodies colliding fiercely, desire and survival instinct fusing into one. Velira was a raging fire, hot, powerful, and trembling. Jace was solid ice, embracing the flames, the two merging amid sweat, blood, and racing heartbeats. The storm of lust surged, every touch, every breath, every gasp pulling them closer, leaving no escape. Only the wild night, the scent of earth, blood, and desire remained, creating a primal ecstasy neither had ever known with anyone else. When it was over, Velira curled up in Jace's arms, silver skin slick with sweat, violet eyes soft and gentle after the storm. Jace stroked her silvery hair, his breath calm and deep as the sea. "Aren't you afraid of me?" Jace smiled, whispering, "I've never seen anyone so beautiful while burning bright." Velira laughed softly, the last walls falling away. Outside, Azarel's pale moonlight crept through the bunker's cracks. The wild beasts had gone silent. Only the gentle breaths of two survivors remained, nestled together at the fragile border between life and death, instinct and feeling. But deep in the forest, other eyes were watching, new dangers waiting in the shadows ahead. Dawn on Azarel did not arrive in radiant light, but only as a pale gray streak creeping through dense treetops. Inside the bunker, the air after a long night felt thick and humid. Velira woke first, her back pressed against Jace's chest, his arms still wrapped tightly around her waist, his breath deep and steady, as if the two of them had belonged to each other for a very long time. Her body still echoed with the aftermath of battle and the intoxicating instincts of the night before. Scratches on her shoulders and hips had not yet healed, but inside her, a smoldering pleasure burned, a feeling only those who have faced death and lived to tell the tale could ever truly understand. She turned, gazing at Jace's sleeping face. For the first time in her life, Velira felt a strange peace, even if just a fleeting moment in this wilderness, so close to death. Humans, she mused silently. How can they be so weak, yet so dangerous at the same time? Jace stirred, his storm-gray eyes opening to meet hers. For a moment, neither spoke. Between them was the lingering warmth of last night's wild passion, skin pressed close, heartbeats no longer obeying will, but depending wholly on the presence of the other. "Did you sleep well?" Velira didn't answer, just half-smiled. "Enough to know I'm still alive." Jace sat up, reached for a water bottle and handed it to her. "You're the first alien I've met who can fight in." Velira cut him off, her eyes glinting with challenge. "And sleep with a stranger." Jace laughed unashamed. "Yes, and more boldly than I expected." Her face flushed for a moment, an emotion unfamiliar to an Illyrian warrior who had known only orders and missions. "I do what I want, especially when survival instinct is pushed to the limit." Jace lightly touched the cut on her waist, his voice dropping. "But you have more to hide than just wounds on your skin." Velira stiffened, her eyes turning cold. She shrank back, got up, and walked to the control panel, pretending to check the security system. "What do you know about me?" Jace didn't get up. He just leaned back against the bed, eyes following her every movement. "I know you're not just any warrior. The blood you carry, that armor, the biotech embedded in it, none of it belongs to an ordinary mercenary." Velira was silent. The bunker air grew heavy as lead. Only the wind howling through the cracks and the clicking of rusty machinery broke the silence. Finally, Velira spoke. "I carry something both our species want, a secret that, if exposed, will cost me my life and shift the fate of millions." Jace moved closer, stopping just a breath away. "So why trust me?" Velira looked up at him, violet eyes cold but shadowed with uncertainty. "Because I have no one else to trust." Jace smiled, reached out, and gently touched her shoulder. "Then, at least here, you still have me." Outside the bunker, new sounds began to rise, not the roar of Rakesh, but the whirring of machinery, drones scanning the forest edge. Jace swore softly, switching on the alarm system. Someone scanning for biosignatures nearby, not local hunters. Velira's face blanched. "They've found me." Jace's gaze sharpened with suspicion. "Who's after you?" Velira bit her lip. Finally, she could hide it no longer. "I'm a seventh-generation Illyrian heir. If captured, I'll be forced to bond with a rival leader, a kind of forced union, a merging of power. They'll use my body as a vessel, make me a permanent biological tool." Jace was stunned, then suddenly laughed. "You fight like a goddess and talk about marriage like a victim." Velira clenched her fist. "I'm not afraid to fight. I'm afraid of losing the right to choose." Jace drew close, his hand slipping behind her back, pulling her into his arms. "Here, you always have a choice." Velira's eyes softened, but she remained stubborn. "You think you can protect me from an entire army?" Jace didn't answer. Instead, he kissed her deeply, fiercely and tenderly, a declaration of instinct, not empty words. The next hours passed on high alert. Drones swept the area, sometimes hovering close to the bunker. Velira used her hacking skills to redirect several of them, but could not block them all. When night fell again, the bunker sank into thick darkness. Velira leaned against the wall, Jace at her side, a gun always within reach. They spoke in hushed tones about the past. Jace revealed he'd once been a military engineer, a mercenary who'd witnessed more deaths than days survived. Velira confessed she'd been trained from childhood as a living weapon, never truly knowing love, only obedience and the struggle to survive. The distance between them blurred, replaced by an irresistible pull. Jace caressed Velira's shoulder. Her eyes shone with a mingling of longing and fear. "You know," she whispered, "my kind only stabilize when bonded physically with another being. It's our oldest survival instinct, but also the most dangerous." Jace whispered, his lips brushing her ear. "Then let me be your lifeline." Velira shuddered as Jace kissed down her neck, his hand sliding beneath the bodysuit, feeling heat surge between them like electricity. This time they rushed together with no restraint. Every feeling exploded, unguarded, unfiltered. Their hands explored every inch of flesh, two bodies tangled in darkness, urgent breaths and moans mixing with the night winds of Azarel. Velira clung to Jace, nails dragging lightly down his back, her lips tasting sweat, blood, and fear. Jace held her tight, feeling every shudder, every pleasure from deep within, as if they could dissolve into one. When the passion subsided, Velira whispered in his ear, voice weak and trembling, "You know, if I had to choose a place to die, I'd want it here beside you." Jace only kissed her forehead, burying his face in her damp, familiar hair. "If we die together, but I'll fight to the end." Outside, the enemy army had drawn near. Searchlights swept through the forest, machines beeped urgently. Tonight would not be peaceful. In the heart of the bunker, the survivors stopped hiding. They had chosen each other, whether tomorrow would be an ending, or the start of a new, inescapable war. Night on Azarel seemed endless. Only the cold gleam of drones flickered over the treetops, the hum of engines echoed, and the strange sounds of alien mercenaries poured into the forest. The bunker where Jace and Velira hid was swallowed by a maze of red lights. No longer a refuge, but a cramped cage where both had to confront the truth of their destiny. Jace sat by the bunker's only small window, gripping his gun tightly, eyes never leaving the tracker screen of their pursuers. Every footstep outside stabbed at his exhausted nerves, strung to the limit of survival. Velira checked her armor, patching shattered segments with medical tape and scraps scavenged from the bunker. On her chest, the silver blood had dried, but her gaze still glinted with icy steel resolve. "They'll strike just before dawn," she said. Jace looked at Velira, his voice rough. "They have the advantage in numbers and automatic weapons, but I know a shortcut behind the bunker leading to the edge of the ravine. If we have to, we can use it as an escape route." Velira gave a dry, bitter laugh. "Escape to where? Azarel is all predators, dead zones, and climate traps. Leaving the bunker is just a slower way to die." Jace didn't argue, only silently handed her the last box of ammo. "Any way to die is better than being captured." Velira gripped the box, a rare flicker of softness passing in her eyes. "Are you always like this? Ready to die for someone you just met?" Jace stepped up, took her hand, pulled her close, his breath hot on her forehead. "I'm not dying for anyone. I just live all out for what I choose. And last night I chose you." In that moment, Velira was no longer a warrior, no longer the vessel of a legacy or power. She was just a woman trembling from fear and longing, in the arms of a stranger who was now all she had left in the world. A burst of gunfire cracked outside, green flashes tearing through the darkness. Enemy mercenaries had encircled the bunker. Jace lunged for the controls, activating defense systems, electric turrets, fire traps, a smoke dispersal machine. Velira slid behind him, eyes sharp, plasma blade glowing in her hand. The bunker shook as a shock bomb blew out the window. Smoke and dust flooded in. Jace shouted, "Stay close." They moved as one, shadows in sync. Velira surged forward, taking down an intruder with a single brutal strike. Purple blood sprayed the metal wall, a flash of lightning in the night. Jace gunned down two more, cool and precise. The sound of gunfire, screams, and exploding drones blended into a savage symphony of survival. Whenever Velira was hit, Jace shielded her, pulling her from danger. Both of them now smeared with blood, some from enemies, some their own. In the battle's fiercest moment, a massive explosion rocked the rear of the bunker, the earth cracking, dirt spewing skyward. Jace dragged Velira into a secret alcove behind the workbench. They panted, sweat, blood, and fear melting together into a heady, addictive haze. Velira pressed against Jace, trembling, eyes wild. I'm scared." Jace held her tightly, kissing her temple, his hand gripping her waist, warmth pouring through battered armor. "Don't be, I'm here. If we die together." But the fear came not only from the enemy. It burned inside Velira. the terror of feeling weak for the first time, of hoping someone wouldn't leave her behind. They clung to each other, lips seeking out lips, this kiss now not a burst of animal instinct but desperate salvation. Jace pressed her against the cold concrete, hands stroking down her spine, seeking out the places where life still smoldered. Velira responded, unrestrained, dragging his shirt down, letting his bare chest press hot against her own. A moan escaped, part pain, part joy, part silent plea for rescue in the chaos. Outside, gunfire still raged, but in this shadowed corner only their bodies remained, fear dissolving in every trembling touch. When the shooting subsided, Jace gritted his teeth, pulled Velira up, his eyes harder than ever. "We have to go. Back tunnel, stay close." Velira nodded, quickly wiping blood from her lips, her gaze now blazing with determination. They slipped through the narrow tunnel, dodging heat sensors and plasma traps left by their pursuers. Azarel now felt like a living trap, enemies above, below them cliffs and predators. The cold bit deep, fog thickened, the ground slippery with damp. Jace caught Velira more than once when she nearly fell, their eyes meeting in the darkness, no more promises needed. At the cliff's edge they paused, breathless. Behind the hunt drew closer, searchlights sweeping in. Ahead the abyss, only mist and the howl of wind below. Jace looked at Velira, gaze fierce. "Do you trust me?" Velira smiled, violet eyes wild with freedom. "I choose to, even if this is the last time." Without hesitation, they clasped hands and plunged down the steep slope, tumbling through mud, sweat, blood, and terror until they landed in a hidden cave beneath the cliff. In the cold, damp dark, Velira pressed herself to Jace, both shaking from chill and adrenaline. Jace gently wiped blood from her cheek, whispering, "They won't stop coming." Velira pressed her forehead to his shoulder, eyes closing. "I don't want to run anymore. I want to fight, but this time I don't want to fight alone." Jace's arms tightened, their breaths mingling. "You'll never have to fight alone again." In the darkness, skin on skin, the connection deepened. It was no longer blind lust but the union of two lost souls, using pleasure to ease pain, every embrace healing the losses they'd endured. They kissed, held each other, twined together until all the noise outside faded to nothing. A thin beam of light pierced the stone, illuminating two bodies clinging to each other in the wild, sealing an unspoken vow. No matter what happened, they would not part, no longer fugitives, but survivors who dared to love in danger, who dared to choose each other against the encroaching dark. In the cold, damp belly of the cave, Jace and Velira still clung to each other as if letting go would turn everything to nothingness. Outside, the engines of pursuit had faded, leaving only the howling wind, water dripping from the stone, and their two heartbeats pulsing as one. Sweat, blood, and the scent of skin lingered on them, proof of both the fight for survival and the stormy night of love they had just endured. After a while, Velira awoke first. She gazed at Jace's face in the dark, the bruises on his neck, the dust on his cheek, his messy hair, and the faint scratches left by her own fingernails the night before. There was a feeling rising in her chest that Velira had never known, peace, but also fear. For this peace was fragile, like the faint light slipping through the stone, always on the verge of being snuffed out by the storm. She gently touched his lips. The warmth at her fingertip made him stir. Jace opened his eyes, smiled softly, pulled her close, and whispered in her ear, "I thought you were just a strange wind passing through my life." Velira pressed her forehead to his, violet eyes shining. "I always thought I was a flame that would burn out, impossible to hold." Jace laughed, his hand stroking her back, sticky with sweat and ash. "It's hard to hold fire, but I'm ready to be burned for it." His words made Velira tremble, moved and afraid. For years she had lived like a machine, not daring to love, not daring to hope. Now just a hug, a single phrase, was enough to make the fiercest Illyrian warrior softer than she had ever imagined. Outside, the morning light broke through the misty treetops. But Velira knew that on Azarel, dawn was only the start of another day running. She got up, pulled Jace from their hiding place, and together they went to a small stream nearby to clean their wounds and fetch water. The icy water soothed the burning sensation on their skin. Velira shed her outer clothing, revealing a bare, powerful yet supple body, bruises, cuts, and scratches mixing pain and pleasure from the previous night. Jace could not resist. He came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her under the clear water of the stream. "No matter what happens, I won't let go." Velira leaned back into his chest, letting his warm hands explore her body in the gentle gray-blue light. Soft kisses landed on her shoulder, neck, down her spine, washing away every fear, every shadowed memory. They melted together under the water, no words, only breath and the sound of water lapping the rocks. Each time their bodies joined, Velira felt herself alive again, stronger, more real, more free. After that brief, transcendent moment, Velira sat close to Jace on a stone by the stream, her eyes distant. "Have you ever wondered, if I don't exist tomorrow, what will become of all these moments?" Jace gently brushed water from her face, resolute. "It doesn't matter who you are or what species you belong to. As long as you're here, breathing beside me, everything is worth living for, worth risking, worth loving." Velira chuckled softly, resting her head on his shoulder. "I used to fear most being loved, because then I'd have a weakness. But now I want that weakness, even if just once." While they talked, the sound of engines approached again, this time heavy Illyrian military vehicles. Recon drones buzzed overhead, bioscanners blaring alarms. Velira's face went pale. She pulled Jace into the undergrowth. "They won't let me go. If I'm caught, I won't be myself anymore. They'll reprogram my brain, turn me into a genetic slave." Jace gripped her hand tightly, his eyes fierce. "Then we fight to the end. But before anything, you have to tell me the real secret you're carrying." Velira was silent for a long time. At last, she pulled a small knife and traced a line on her wrist, revealing a faint purple-silver scar beneath her skin. "My Illyrian blood isn't like anyone else's. It's the key to merging two rival powers vying for the throne. If they get this gene sample, they can create a new generation of warriors, emotionless, willless, without freedom. I'm the only hybrid capable of breaking that cycle." Jace was stunned. "So, you're the ultimate target." Velira nodded, eyes brimming. "If I die, the hunt ends. But if I'm captured, millions will be enslaved. If I survive, I'll spend my life running or fighting until nothing remains." Jace hugged her tight, feeling her heartbeat thunder in his chest. "Then let's fight for freedom, not just for you but for everyone else. I'll never let you face this alone." Velira smiled, for the first time her violet eyes glittering with tears. "As long as I'm with you, even in death, I'll have no regrets." The pursuit drew near. Jace and Velira ran along the stream, slipping over rocks, dodging fallen logs, blood and sweat blending with mud and hope. When they could go no further, they stopped at an ancient cave, symbols of old Illyrian legends etched on the walls. Velira froze, realizing this was the birthplace of the legend of the Flame of Freedom, where her ancestors once rose against tyranny. "This is where everything began," she whispered, "and maybe where everything ends." Jace came behind her, wrapped his arms around her, whispered in her ear, "If this is the end, I want to create the most beautiful ending with you." Velira turned, kissed him deeply, letting every fear, every pain, every doubt dissolve into the pure pleasure of flesh and soul. This time, they united as if there was no tomorrow, as if here the final flame of freedom would burn forever. In that cave, Velira gave herself to Jace completely, body, heart, soul, pride, and fear. They made love in the flickering glow of legendary ashes, proving once again that only true love can break every genetic chain, every program of power from the past. That embrace, those whispers, those wild tremors, turned Velira from a warrior into a human being, and Jace from a wanderer into the only home she ever wanted. As the last flicker of firelight faded in the cave, Velira and Jace still lay beside each other, heads resting on an old cloak, their bodies intertwined, breath blending into a new rhythm, peaceful, yet pulsing with life. Outside, the mist on Azarel began to lift, dawn's light revealing streaks of blood, scratches, and the lingering marks of a wild night that had not yet faded. Velira rose first, pulling the thin blanket up to her chest, violet eyes gazing quietly out the cave's mouth. She felt the beat of life so vividly, both fresh and fragile. Jace woke too, moving to her side, arms encircling her from behind, his warm hand soothing the place where her heart beat wildly. "I used to think my life would be nothing but darkness," Jace whispered, "but you lit the very first spark." Velira leaned into his chest, fingers clutching the strong hands that had carried her through every danger. "I wandered my whole life, thinking I was just a surviving flame, but now I know I am freedom." They gazed at each other for a long time, needing no more words. They had crossed the borders of fear, of survival instinct, of wild nights and burning desire, only to realize that being together was the most important choice of all. The sound of engines echoed outside the cliff. This time, it was a full Illyrian army, led by the Supreme Commander himself. Silver-armored figures moved through the mist, armed with modern weapons and unstoppable power. They had finally traced Velira, and would not rest until they reclaimed the vessel of supreme genetic power. Velira took Jace's hand without a tremor. "I won't let them steal what I've just found." Jace smiled, kissed her forehead. "We'll fight together as always, but this time I won't let you sacrifice yourself alone." The Illyrian army encircled the cave. The commander stepped forward, voice booming. "Velira Shin, you are Illyrian genetic property. Surrender, or this entire forest will be erased." Velira stood tall, answering in a clear, resolute voice. "I am no longer a vessel nor anyone's property. Let me go, or I'll destroy what you've hunted for all these years, even if it means my own life." The commander shouted, ordering the troops to close in. Plasma rifles glowed, ready to fire. Jace laid his hand on Velira's shoulder, eyes burning with resolve. "No matter what happens, I won't let go." Velira nodded, drew the plasma knife hidden in her wrist guard, her eyes cold as an ancient warrior. The final battle erupted. Gunfire, explosions, the roar of powered armor clashing against stone echoed thunderously. Velira fought like a goddess, rolling through plasma blasts, dodging lethal strikes, protecting herself and blocking enemies from reaching Jace. Jace shot down each Illyrian soldier with the precision of a battle-hardened veteran, every shot a vow to protect the only love he'd ever known. Back to back, they fought as if born to battle side by side. Wave after wave of Illyrian troops fell, but more pressed in. Realizing Velira would never yield, the commander deployed his ultimate weapon, a biobomb programmed to eradicate anything bearing Velira's gene within a 2 km radius. "You choose death over glory, Velira." She stood chest-heaving, eyes radiant with pride. "I choose freedom. And this freedom no one can take from me, not even you." Jace looked at her, decisive. "I promise to go with you to the end." Velira turned, kissed Jace deeply. "If this is the last time, let it be the most beautiful moment." They held each other tight, defiant against the icy countdown of the biobomb. At that moment, an idea flashed in Velira's mind. Her blood wasn't just the key to merging power, it could also neutralize the biobomb if combined with human DNA, something no one had dared attempt. She made a small cut on her wrist, mingled her blood with Jace's, and let it drip into the core of the bomb just before it was set to explode. The instant Illyrian and human blood mixed, a surge of violet-blue energy swept through the forest, deactivating every bomb and erasing all programming signals in the Illyrian soldiers. The troops collapsed empty-eyed as their automatic gear went dead. The commander was stunned, unable to believe what had happened. Velira lifted her head high and shouted, "Freedom cannot be programmed. Those who seek to control genes will lose everything." The commander retreated, ordering his forces to withdraw. Silence fell, broken only by the ragged breaths of Jace and Velira. After the battle, the Azarel forest was uncannily quiet. Jace and Velira sat together on a stone before the cave, watching the first sunrise with no pursuers in sight. Both were exhausted, their bodies marked by wounds, but their eyes shone with incomparable happiness. Jace gripped Velira's hand, his voice husky but full of emotion. "I used to think freedom was just a dream. But now I know true freedom is being beside the one you love, living and dying together. No force, no control." Velira beamed, resting her head on his shoulder, arms wrapping him tight. "I once believed I was born only to fight and run. But today I want to stay, to love, to live, and to build a new world with you, small as it may be, but ours alone." They shared their longest, deepest kiss in the golden sunlight of a free dawn. The Azarel wind swept past, carrying the scent of blood, wild grass, and the lingering aftertaste of a love born from years surviving in chains. A few months later, a small cabin stands in the forest, wildflowers blooming all around. Jace and Velira live together, rebuilding their home from the ruins. The wounds on their bodies have healed, but the memories of battle, fear, and happiness remain vivid. Velira tends their garden, learning to sow seeds, raise animals, discovering new joys with Jace at her side. Jace smiles at her, knowing this peace is the fruit of all the pain, sacrifice, and choices they have made. Sometimes they embrace beneath the trees, gazing at Azarel's sky, a place that was once a nightmare, now a tiny paradise for two souls who once wandered lost.